Hey everyone, how are you today? I am waiting for my guest to arrive, Helen Elisabeth Woodvine. But in the meantime, I want to talk to you guys about some fun stuff. So, we all want to be able to lead. Leading is it's an art. There's something to be said to be able to be a good leader, but that doesn't mean that everyone can't be an amazing, awesome leader and an influencer. The first thing I think that it takes to be a good leader is to be able to lead your own life, to be able to influence yourself, to make really good decisions in your life. So today, while I'm waiting for Helen to arrive, I thought I would create a list for you. I love lists, right? So a list for you on how to be, what are the 11 major attributes to becoming a good leader. So 11 major attributes to become a good leader. And I'm also going to tell you 8 attributes that create a bad leader, a leader who does not lead well. Okay, so let's go with the 11 major attributes to creating a good leader, to becoming a good leader. So the first thing is to have self-confidence, right? Knowledge. You need to have knowledge of what you are leading. So your business or your life or your project or whatever you're working on, in order to lead it properly, you need to be very well versed in it. So for instance, with Ayse, I didn't really know a lot about tech. I got to tell you, like the back end of a website and what happens back there and the plugins and everything. And I have spent, the last 6 months becoming very intimate with my site. So I know it very, very well. So part of leading it, because my academy is based on, being on a web platform, that means that I can't just let someone else do it. I mean, they're going to do it, but I need to understand it, right? I need to be clear I need to have the knowledge. Self-control. So if you can't control yourself, you can't lead others. When you're leading a project, I will tell you that crap shows up. Like things that you need to do shows up. Things that were unexpected, obstacles, challenges, struggles, things that you did not expect to show up. And when these things show up, you really need to know how to control yourself to be able to handle them, to be able to shift yourself from that, oh my God, what's happening, into a space of being able to say, okay, no matter what, you know what, I've got this. I'm scared a little bit. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I've got the courage to step into it and do it anyways, right? So self-control, courage is a thing. So courage doesn't mean nothing scares you. Okay. I get scared by lots of stuff, right? So courage doesn't mean that I have no fear. Courage means that I'm going to step into it anyway, right? That I am going to do it regardless of how I feel about it, right? So that's really important, right? I can't just pick and choose what I'm going to do. So when stuff shows up, I have to have the courage to be able to step into it anyways, no matter how I feel about it. A sense of justice is number 3, right? A sense of justice. If you're not fair with people, if you're not fair to yourself, if you're not fair with others, then there is no way that you can be a good leader. Helen is just in the back end right now, so I'm just going to rush through some of these. Number 4, definitive in your decisions. Okay, when you make a decision, you need to be clear because you've done your homework, because you have your knowledge. So you've made a decision and you're not wishy-washy about it, right? So that's also very important in being a good leader. Definite plans, to plan your work, right? That's something I've had to learn, and I'm still learning, because I'm kind of like a fly by the seat of my pants kind of a person a lot of the times. So you need to kind of have a clear plan, right? A clear plan of what you're doing. The next thing is do more than what you're paid for. Be okay to do more, to step in, right? So that is really, really important. When I'm working with my faculty, in IAWSOM, I will do anything and everything to make sure that they are supported, right? And even if it's stuff that I think that is not like, why am I doing this? It doesn't matter. I do it anyway, right? So that's part of leading, right? Pleasing personality. Well, we already know I've got that covered, right? So a pleasing personality, being able to be, not be a biatch, right? So you don't want to be a biatch, right? So you got to be someone who's pleasing. Sympathy and understanding, right? I'm going to bring Helen in 1 second. She's just waiting in the back. So sympathy and understanding, right? You need to understand what's going on in other people's lives. It is not all about you as the leader, right? It's not all about you. It's not all about what you want. It's not all about your deadlines. It is not about that, right? So you have to also, to a point, have understanding of other people's lives and compassion and what's going on in their world. Okay. And it may not fit into exactly what you're doing. So you need to sort of have compassion for that, but to a point. Like, you can't let them bowl you over either, but there is a boundary there that you need to understand where that is for you, depending on your project, depending on what you're working on. Okay, 2 more. Willingness to assume responsibility. If shit goes sideways, you need to own that. Okay, you need to own it. As a leader, you don't look for scapegoats. You don't look for people to blame for when things go wrong. Okay, you need to own it because you are the leader of that project, right? So you need to know how to own things when they go sideways, and to be able to say, okay, so maybe I didn't explain this properly. Maybe that person didn't understand me. Maybe I didn't oversee the project properly. There was, what part of this did I make? Where did I make the mistake? Because in failure, there's always feedback. No failure, only feedback, right? And number 11 is cooperation, right? To be able to apply cooperation inside your team. Right? Not telling people what they have to do, but to get that cooperation, that incentive from them, that they want to inspire them to bring enthusiasm into the project or whatever it is you're working on, because, just telling people what to do, right? You have to be able to inspire them to want to do it, to understand it, right? And that really is part of being a good leader. So in a moment, after we speak to Helen, we're going to talk about 8 things that causes failure in leadership. So for right now, I'm going to bring in Helen. Helen's joining us from the UK.
Hi.
Hi, Helen.
Hi, nice to see you.
Sorry, I got into my list while I was waiting for you, and I was
I was following it, and as somebody who's been in man management myself in a previous career for a long time, absolutely spot on. Yeah, it's exactly what people should be doing, and so often it's missed.
I think when people get into that leadership role, or where they're influencing people or they're leading people, they get a little bit in their head, which, okay, it's a hint. That's one of the failures, right? So they get into that, what's my title? What am I, everyone has to do what I say, right? So the title doesn't matter.
No, it's very true, actually. I remember being quite a long time ago now, chatting to a friend of mine who was then, I think he still is actually, in New York, and he was in advertising, and I was only really young, and I was talking to him on the telephone, and he had a snazzy title. It was something like Senior Vice President, Creative Art. And I said, wow, I said, that's some title, isn't it? And he said, Helen, but never ever be impressed by anybody's title, because here in New York City, there's more senior vice presidents than there are janitors in buildings. Yeah,
right? It's so true. When we started IAWSOM, like my council, we changed from board of directors to council. I didn't like the board of directors. Same thing. I thought it was just such a, I don't know, I didn't like it. So we moved into like tribe, council, so the people, and they said, Ayse, you need a title. And I was like, why? Right? What do I, and, you need to be the president of, and I said, I am no president. Right. And so we started trying to think of a title for me, and dean, it says an academy, it's dean. I don't know. I'm really, I wasn't feeling it. Right. And when they said, like, what do you want to be? I said, when I close my eyes, honestly, I see myself pushing a broom down the hallway, opening the windows, opening the curtains, letting people in. I'm seeing myself as a caretaker. And they were like, no, you can't call yourself the caretaker. I was like, why? I mean, isn't that what I'm doing? I'm taking care of Awesome. Like, isn't that really what I'm doing at the end of the day? Like, who really cares what I'm called, right? So I guess it's a thing for some people. You know, we ended up with chief, which is, you know, caretaker, head of integrative education and finance. But I don't understand. Like I still don't. I don't know. It's not the way my head thinks.
I think one thing that's really apparent actually is when we have our meetings, Ayse, that always comes across to me is that every meeting, first and foremost, by a mile, every meeting first and foremost is the students. Yeah, the students, the welfare of the students, the well-being of the students, and the well-being and welfare of the faculty, and everything else in an organic process will take care of itself.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing that stands out most to me now, being part of this team, having been also part of a corporate team years ago as well, is that the shift in focus is different. And then the other things actually do take care of themselves along the way.
Well, yeah, I mean, we have to care. Like the students are they're the primary for me, right? So the students and then the faculty, and yeah, you're right. And then everything else will fall into place. You know, is there work I have to do in the trenches? Yeah. Do you guys want to hear about it all? Not really. So I give you the highlights, but I really don't need to get into everything. But you're right, like, because the academy is for the students. And that was a huge learning curve for me, because even when I was doing, you know, creating, I'm not a big marketing maven or by any stretch of the imagination, but when I was starting that, you know, how am I marketing this? I was talking about Awesome all the time. You know, this is what Awesome can do for you. This is what Awesome brings to the table. This is what Awesome does. When someone said to me, Ayse, it's not about that. If you think about Star Wars, Awesome is Yoda. The students are Luke Skywalker. That's the important. They're the stars, right? So, you know, it's true, because the students matter. So I had to sort of look at my marketing and go, oh, you know what? I didn't do this right. You know, what is this going to do for them? But in a sense of how are they feeling? Right? What do I need to help them feel better? Not, you know, Awesome's going to give you this and that and the other thing, right? So it's like I had to get that right out of the picture.
Yeah, because first of all, when somebody goes to anything, and certainly an academy like ours, they're going as themselves. So I think Fred made a really good point when he was talking about this in one of our meetings. They're looking to see themselves there first of all, to see if they fit in. Yeah. Can I see myself here? Or is it, yes, it's about solutions, and we're going to help people find solutions because we've gone on that journey and we found our own, and we've explored it, and we've fallen and we've stood up again, and we know a little bit about, you know, what we can do along the way to support people. But initially you have to be able to see yourself there, and if you can't see yourself there, or it looks like you're not going to fit in, it doesn't matter what you're going to offer, you're not going to take that first step through the door. And I think that's where we are different. There's lots of ways where we're different, but that's one of the ways that we're different.
And I'm still working on it. Like, I'm still massaging it. And, you know, I'm talking to a new marketing company now because I don't want to be doing it. But it's like, it's about how, because we have so much to offer. Like, you've got some amazing courses, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But like, you know, we've got some amazing content, but we're also so interactive, right? That people, I wrote a post the other day. And as I was writing it, I was like, oh my God, this is so what Awesome is all about, right? And I just started it off as just a post with some statistics in it. And then I was just like, wait a second. As I was writing the content, I'm like, this is it. Like, so in 2019, some people may have heard me say this or read my post, but in 2019, $165 billion was spent on online courses. $165 billion, that's a lot of money, right? In 2025, they're forecasting that it's going to be $325 billion is going to be spent on people buying online courses, right? So I'm sitting here, and the next number that came out was only 9% of people who bought these courses actually finished them. And so I sat there and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, that is just so small compared to how much money is being spent. So I had to sort of sit there, and I was thinking like, All right. What are the three big issues here? One is accountability. They're not accountable to anyone. So when you're taking an online course, I'm not talking kids in school with their teachers, like the way that they're learning right now for COVID. I'm talking about adult learning and stuff when we're taking courses because we want to. Why aren't we finishing it? One is accountability. We're not accountable to anyone. You know, so I already I have some courses from before that are sitting on my computer waiting for me to start. Right? Motivation is a big one too. Who's motivating you to create new habits in our world? It takes time. You can't just buy a course and all of a sudden you've got a study habit, right? So it's about creating that study habit for yourself, right? And when it gets to the hard part of the course, you're like, oh, can I do this part? Right? So I don't know. Let me think about this for a minute. So, you know, 1 week might end up in 2 weeks and 3 weeks, and all of a sudden you've stopped doing the course.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing is interaction with your teacher.
Yeah.
With the actual coach. And the interesting thing is, like, there's people out there, like, I'm not going to say any names, but there's a lot of courses out there that I see people on Facebook or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I sold 60,000 copies of my course, and like, you know, you can make millions and millions on a course and stuff. And my question is, okay, that's great, you've sold that many courses. How many of those students do you know? How many of those students do you talk to? How many of those students, when they don't get past lesson 3, are you contacting and saying, hey, what's up? How can I help you move further into this?
That's key, isn't it? Because if you're going to go on a course for self-development of any kind, oftentimes you're starting it from a vulnerable point. I'm not saying everybody is all the time, but oftentimes you're going to start it from a vulnerable place, and you can get into it and it can be interesting, etc. But if you still feel vulnerable part the way through it, because actually it's just a computer screen and there's no interaction, and if I would joined Ayse, but I was never actually going to talk to Ayse other than that first interview we had, that wouldn't be the same experience. So you can go in feeling quite vulnerable, very keen, and you have expectations from it. But if there's nobody there to share that with and to collaborate with, then you're every bit as much on your own halfway through it as you were when you started it. Nothing's actually changed. You know, it's like all the resources there for you, but it may as well be, as you refer to, a self-help book. It may as well be that, because something key is really, really missing. I think when I look back to school, the lessons that stand out most are the lessons from the teachers who stood out the most to me.
Exactly, right? So you want to be one of those teachers. And it's funny, I talk to the teachers all the time, and we are collaborating. So as you know, we have weekly meetings and and stuff, and we talk about stuff, and we ask questions, and we talk. And it's like a think tank. Like, once a week we're doing this think tank thing. And at the end of the day, collaboration is a beautiful idea. It's a wonderful concept, but it's new. It's new. The way that we're doing it, it's new, right, for people. So it's been a learning experience for the teachers. It's been a learning experience for me as well, because I had an idea of what collaboration is in my head, right? So, it's about creating that or better. And then, when the teacher reaches out to me and they go, Ayse, I got the email that my student did lesson 1, and I got my email that they completed lesson 2, and I got my email that they completed lesson 3. I think there's something wrong with the system because I didn't get anything for lesson 4. And I was like, no, you didn't get, they haven't started lesson 4 yet. They didn't finish it. So that's why you didn't get an email. So now you as the teacher now have to go reach out to them, right? And say, what's up? Have you reached, have you hit a barrier? Do you have a block? Is there something, that I can help you with, right? To get them to move forward. Right? So yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with the system. Now you need to go in and help them, right? So that they can finish that course. They can get over that hump or whatever it is that they've reached in the course right now that's difficult for them, right? So it's been an interesting learning experience for all of us.
Yes, it is. And it's, and it's a new thing for us all. It's a new thing. It's been a new thing for me, teaching mindfulness practice and other things isn't new to me, but doing it online is a very new thing to me. It's been a great it's been a great opportunity that just, you know, I mean, I know we've said before, and I think you've quoted it as well on streams, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And that's kind of what happened for me when I found your link. You know, I think I'd done HypnoBiz Online Summit last year at home, and then I was sitting at home and I was scrolling through a few things, and then this lady appears on my screen, this one here, and she's talking about this vision that she has for what she wants to achieve, and what kind of person she's looking for to come on board. And I'm watching it, and then you know, you play it again, don't you? Play it twice, you think, have I really heard this? So, and then I dropped you the line and said, yeah, I'd be really interested. And it's funny how things can come your way if you're open to them.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're open to them. Yeah.
And that's just it, right? It's funny, most of the people that I interviewed, and I interviewed, like, I'm going to say almost every single teacher. I think there was a couple of them that somebody else on the council interviewed, but otherwise, like, out of all of our teachers, I've interviewed and met all of them. And that was like, it's funny because when people sign up now to be teachers, when they want to be a faculty member, you know, they can't even find the page to find the information to be a faculty member. It's on our site, but it's hidden. And I've done that on purpose because I want to meet you first. And it's not because I want to control it. It's because I know that there's a certain kind of teacher that's going to come into this collaboration and be able to be a part of what we're doing. And it's not going to be a right fit for everyone. Right? So I want to be able to understand that the teacher still has their passion, and not just for how many products you can sell, but has the passion to want to help students step into their mastery. And I know that's starting to sound very clicky now, like mastery, but what is that, right? That means we have so much capability to be so much.
I think it was, and you'll know this because you're a hypnotherapist and teach hypnotherapy too. I think it was Erickson who said, you know, it's amazing what people can do, but people don't know what they can do.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I look at this illness we've got going on right now. Let's just call it that. So this illness is, and I have my theory behind this. Okay. So knowing the law of attraction, right? Correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, Helen, but you know, the law of attraction, right? We've got this law of attraction that tells us that if we want something and if we believe something, we can make it happen. Right? So part of the reason for a collaboration is because now we have this energy of all these teachers who want the same thing. Right? Who are creating the same type of feeling. And that's what's going to really empower iAwesome. So imagine that on a global scale. You've got all these people who are afraid of this illness and what it can create in this world and what it's going to do. Right? And now the numbers are flying. What if we all turned our heads around and say, this thing is going to disappear like this in the next 5 minutes, because this is what we all want. The whole planet says that and believes it. Like, as much as they believe they have a right and a left arm, like it's gone. This thing would not survive. It would be gone.
It's really interesting to see, isn't it? Because it arrived so quickly.
And
you know,
fear,
and it's put its mark on society so quickly.
And we're driving it. We are driving it without even knowing that we're doing it. We're driving it.
But also, of course, people are not just afraid of this. Oftentimes, people are actually afraid to begin with. Yeah, they're afraid to begin with, and then something comes along, and it compounds that underlying fear. And then before you know it, it's very easy in life to become immobilized by a fear.
It would be. There's this really neat exercise that I've been doing lately that I love. And I can even tell you, where's my book? It's not here, but I know which book it is. So there's this really neat exercise that I learned in a book that I'm doing on my shelf, one of my shelf help books. And I'm actually doing it all the time. And it's so powerful. So sometimes to switch our belief system from, okay, let's even talk about money. That's usually a big one for people. They get in that lack state of money, right? So, you know, from thinking I don't have enough to money's just going to flow to me. Right. So they'll say those words, they'll say the affirmations, but deep down inside, they don't really actually believe that. Right. Because there's a belief that's in there that's embedded in them that they are in a lack scarcity mindset. So what ends up happening is when you really say this, but you believe that, you're actually creating a zero. Like there's no change going to happen in your situation. But what if you said something like, wouldn't it be nice if money just flowed to me? Wouldn't that just be nice? And if you can actually let yourself, just imagine that for a minute. Wouldn't it just be nice? You're not asking to change anything. You're just going, well, wouldn't that be nice? Right? And wouldn't this be nice? And wouldn't that be nice? And all of a sudden you're allowing yourself to feel these other things that you didn't feel before. Right?
Yeah.
Just like in this, wouldn't it be nice? And allowing yourself to kind of just be like, yeah, that would be really cool. And what that would feel like and what that would look like in your head. And before you know it, you're actually using the tools that you need to use for law of attraction.
I would say that's pretty much what happened to me with hypno, actually. The way I found it, and I found hypnotherapy before I found mindfulness. The way I found it was I was working as a reflexologist in East Cheshire Hospice, and I was listening to the radio on Saturday, and I remember it was a Saturday morning. I was listening to the radio, and the broadcaster was talking about a boy. He was just talking about this boy, and it was an interesting story. He was talking about this boy who had polio, and you're gonna click, you're gonna know who I'm talking about. People watching may not. So he was talking about this boy who had polio, and he was paralyzed, as polio does. And he overheard the physician say to his mother, don't expect the boy to make it through the night. And he must have been, early teens. And he asked his mum to slightly rearrange some furniture in his room so that he could see the sun go down for what he believed may be the last time. Well, it wasn't the last time, and that's not where the story ends. It's just where the story starts, because he did make it through the night, and he did survive into adulthood, and he regained some mobility. Story goes, by watching his infant sister learn to crawl, then stand as infants do, and then start to walk, and observing the kinetic chain of movement in her body and imagining that through his own body. And he regained a lot of mobility, not all, but a lot. And he went on to be a medical doctor, and he went on to be a psychiatrist and a hypnotherapist, and perhaps the most famous hypnotherapist the world's ever known, Dr. Milton Erickson. Yeah. Right. And when I heard Erickson's story, my thoughts were, pretty much what you've just said. Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice? It really resonated with me, because I work with so many people who show me the most tremendous strength and grace on their journeys in the hospice, that I stood in awe of people's strength. And I felt it was like another little signal, to that part of you I refer to it, that part of you that just sparks and lights up and just knows something is good and something is right. And it spoke to that part of me. And it was, wouldn't it be nice? Well, of course, working at the hospice opened the door for me to train in the Christie Hospital, in the cancer teaching hospital. It just opened the door, and it opened the door for me to do the diploma in hypnotherapy, which opened the door for me to go and work in the smoking clinic in the hospital, opened the door for me to learn mindfulness, because one of the teachers on the course with me is a doctor at Salford University teaching mindfulness there. And it all fell in place. And it all started with that, I think, a point of no resistance to it. Yes. It wasn't that's all right for him, isn't it? Because he was a medical doctor. Yeah, he was a medical doctor who actually had to learn to walk again, if you don't mind,
Right.
The challenges there. But it was just that simple, wouldn't it be nice? And I agree with you. It's the times when I've said to myself, without applying attachment, just wouldn't it be, wouldn't it, that would be, I'd like that. I'm open to that.
Yep.
But I'm not driving myself crazy about it, but I'm open to that.
I'm open to it.
And that's when the doors open.
And it does, because, the interesting thing about law of attraction, or to make things manifest in your life, is that inner part of you, your spark, your force, your energy, your soul, your spirit, whatever anybody wants to call it. The minute you say you want something and it feels good for that moment, it's like, it's in.
Yeah.
Like, okay, right? But your conscious part, your subconscious part, your nervous system, your subconscious, you're filled with these beliefs, right? The way that you're going to make those things happen in your life is when that aligns with that. These two have to be wanting the same thing, right? And when you can get those two things wanting the same thing, done, right? And you were saying earlier about, fear and fear in this world. There's always going to be fear in the world. I have fear lots, right? I'm trying something new. I'm nervous. I'm scared. Like I have to get into it. Like jumping into Ayse was the scariest thing I ever did, right? So scary. And well, maybe not the scariest thing I've ever done. I've done some pretty scary things. But learning to master yourself means you're going to do it in spite of that. Despite your fear, you're going to do it anyway. Right? And wouldn't it be nice? It's allowing yourself to think of another way of being. Right? Wouldn't it be nice? And it's so easy, right? Because you're not trying to shift anything. Because then that becomes, overwhelming for people. So you're not trying to shift anything. You're just allowing this beautiful power of imagination that we have all got, right? And I don't care how old you are, you have imagination, right? You plan what you're going to have for dinner tonight. So you've got imagination. So it's like we all have this, and just allowing yourself to say, well, wouldn't it be nice if, because we do it with what if statements all the time. What if this happens? And what if that happens? And what if anything happens, right? We always do it.
And
we're just doing it the other way.
And most of those things, of course, never do happen. Most of the things we fear actually never do happen.
They don't happen, but they do create a really traumatic experience inside our bodies.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Those negative what ifs. Have you ever what ifed yourself to the point where you actually what if something so negatively that you've actually started crying? You brought yourself into this state of that it's actually happening?
Yeah, because your mind, as we know, your mind doesn't know the difference.
Right.
The limbic system will respond whether the threat's really there or not, because it's preparing you.
Right. So you'll go into this state, and now all these chemicals have been released in your body, and all this stuff is happening, right? It works the other way as well.
It does. It works all the time. And this is because I'm really interested in the brain. And it works the other way as well with dopamine and the reward circuit. It's not just the actual receiving of the reward that gives you the dopamine spike. It's the anticipation of it that gives you that dopamine spike that then makes you pursue the reward and keeps you in that cycle of pursuing something, which is why little steps are every bit as important as arriving as where you want to be.
Yes, right. So sometimes people will do things like, we got into all kinds of things today, but I love these conversations. So sometimes people will say, okay, let's use something that everybody does, especially women, I have to lose 20 pounds or whatever it is, right? I know in UK it's stones. So we have to we have to lose this amount of weight, whatever it is, right? But we won't love ourselves or celebrate until we get there. So if we don't get there, then there's no celebration, and there's still that self-hate thing going on, right? What if you loved yourself along the way and celebrated each pound or each couple of stones or whatever you want to call it that have come off, a lot, celebrating it all along the way?
Yeah. And you would get the progress then, of course, because what would happen is your cortisol levels will go down. And your cortisol level, if your cortisol is really high, that's inflammation in your body. It actually maintains the fat, doesn't it? Because it can result in insulin resistance. So you're keeping yourself fat with that stress.
So that's what I'm saying, right? We have no idea the power that we have just by changing our mindset, just by allowing ourselves to celebrate, just by allowing ourselves to love ourselves, which is so... people will say it in a defensive way, I love myself. But my question is always really, do you? Because you're not behaving in a way that you love yourself. You're treating other people very lovingly, but you're putting yourself last. Your needs, your requirements, the stuff that you want for you don't matter for some reason. That's not coming from a place of love.
No, it's not. No, it's really not. It's really not. And so, and self-compassion, I think, is key to so many, to so much. And when I talk about self-compassion in the course I've got up now, and the course that is like a jigsaw puzzle on this table here that you can't see at the moment, which is the free one that's going on hopefully this weekend. Self-compassion is key, and self-compassion is not about letting yourself off the hook. It's not about being a bit namby-pamby. It's not about being really soft on yourself. It's about, how may I be kind to myself? How may I accept that actually, do you know what? I am part of common humanity, and it's not just me who screws up. Everybody screws up. And as long as we learn the loving lesson from that, so that we try better next time, if we have the compassion, we will keep trying, because we will be forgiving of ourselves, and we will allow ourselves to try again. And that's how you get to your end goal, isn't it? I think a lot of people are trying. They say, well, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, I'm trying to do this.
No commitment in trying.
But also what they're actually trying to do is not to make the same mistake that they made last week, last year, 5 years ago, paralyzed with fear that they're going to make.
Yeah.
So when they strike out, what happens? They're suboptimal. And they are going to make, if not that mistake, a similar one. And then it's like, well, I told myself so. You know?
Absolutely, because you set yourself up to fail right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right. And, I love, this is going to sound weird to people, but I actually love when I make mistakes. I do, because, if I did everything right, I would learn nothing.
Exactly.
Right. So in making my mistakes, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I thought I could do that. I still think I can do that, but I know I'm not going to do it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's really about it. I use it as inspiration. Right. Oh, God, I wanted to do this and I screwed it up, but how can I still do this? Okay, that didn't work, and that didn't work, and that didn't work. Oh, now I know what's going to work.
Yeah.
Right. Now I've got this. Now how did I not see that before? Right. Because you didn't make those mistakes before. Right. That's how come you didn't see it before. So it's really about looking at everything you're doing as I got this. That's my favorite 3 words. Right. I got this.
Mm-hmm.
If I mess it up, I got this. I got it.
Mm-hmm. And I think oftentimes as well, when you step into it, when you embrace it, it's actually a lot of the fear can dissolve from that point, because it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be. So yeah, most of I think what holds us back is precisely what's up here. Yeah, it's like you say, it's the imaginings, because your brain's designed to do that. It's designed to look out for you, designed to keep you alive, but sometimes it goes into overdrive. And then when it's going into overdrive panic mode, this part of your brain that you need to be rational and solve your problems actually shuts down on you anyway. That physiologically, it shuts down on you because it's not needed in a moment of crisis. Little does it know there is no crisis.
Right.
Other than,
we can be our best friends and we can be our worst enemies. We just really have to pay attention to what side of the fence we want to be on. So I'm so excited, Helen, that you're with us. And I'm so excited for all the stuff that you're bringing into iAwesome. And you're so it's funny, I do our think tank, sort of our collaboration meetings at 4:00 in the afternoon Eastern Standard Time. And you managed to make it to almost all of them, even though there's like this time difference between us. I have started them early in the morning on Thursdays now, so to make it easier for people from Europe. But it's like, you're very, very much involved in iAwesome, and I really, really love that. And I love your energy that you bring to the table, and your eagerness and your enthusiasm and your inspiration and all of the wonderful things that you bring. So thank you for being a part of iAwesome. And, if you're a teacher out there and you have something that you want to do to teach inside of iAwesome, if you have a course, if you have a workshop, if you have a seminar, some ways that you want to help humanity and help us to raise the vibration. I think of it like the 100th monkey syndrome. We raise enough people's vibration and frequency and we're going to help all of humanity. And that's really what iAwesome is about. So please, please come and check us out. Well, we have lots of free events in iAwesome that are open to everyone. So check those out as well. So just really allowing yourself to be a part of iAwesome. And as promised, I am going to give you 8 major causes of failure in leadership. So not failure, but feedback. Feedback. So one we talked about earlier is that emphasis on authority, right? Just making sure that everyone knows that you the man, right? You're the boss, right? So just that emphasis on your authority and your title can cause issues in your leadership. So that's, if you like to throw your rank around and you like to throw that title around, it's not going to get you very far. Not everyone's going to be impressed by that, especially not your team, right? So disloyalty is a big one. Throwing your team members under the bus, right? Throwing anyone under the bus and not, like I was taking in the other one, owning it. You have to own it. Disloyalty is the fastest way to lose your team, right? It's the fastest way. Selfishness. If you want, I used to work for people like this. I would work my butt off with things, and I would create a plan and a project, and then we'd walk into a board meeting and they would be like, okay, guys, I created this, blah, 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 blah. And I'd be sitting there like, you did what? Right. So, luckily I'm not a person who needs to be like, hey, I did that. Right. Because I figured the people in the room who are paying attention already know that. Right. But for someone to go in there because their team did it, they're taking, well, it was my team that did it, so I did it. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to give them credit for what they've done. Lack of imagination. If you can't see outside the box, if you're not willing to step out of unconventional methods, if you aren't willing to try new things, if you think that your way is the only way, that is going to cause some feedback, some feedback in your leadership skills for sure. Fear of competition is another one. There's a lot of people out there that we can help. I don't for 1 minute think that iAwesome is the only academy that's ever going to help anyone. I believe that we're going to be really, really good at it, right? Yeah, we're going to be really, really good at it. But I'm sure that other ones will sprout up, and that's fine.
And just to interject, I'm just going to interject for a second, which I'd sometimes do in meetings. I heard, I think it was Simon Sinek, he was talking about precisely that, Microsoft and Apple. And he pointed out that whilst he'd been invited to, I think, both seminars, you can probably check this on YouTube. And if I'm slightly wrong, I'm slightly wrong. But Microsoft were all about how to be Apple. Apple were all about what they could do for their customers. Yeah. And hence the iPhone, the iPad, yeah.
And that's it, right? It's how do we make ourselves better for everyone else, and how do we allow ourselves to grow?
Yeah, right? Which is where your focus is, which I think kudos to you. Yeah.
Right. And also just really thank you. And listening is a huge skill, right? I mean, I have to listen. I talk a lot, but I listen, right? I hear everything that everyone's saying to me. And even in the moment, if I feel like, and then I sit down and I think about it and I'm like, wait a minute, that would work if we did this and this and this, right? So it allows me not to just dismiss. It might not make sense to me at that moment, right? But I have to sort of let it simmer and think about it and be like, oh, you know what? That actually will work. Or bring it out to more members of the team and the faculty and be like, what do you guys think about this? Right? I'm not sure about it right yet, right? So, and listen to what the feedback is. Can't get your hands dirty, right? You can't be the one who works in the trenches. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine right now if I didn't do all the stuff that I did for iAwesome? I have been in the trenches constantly. In fact, I've had faculty members going, Ayse, what are you doing? Why are you always doing all this stuff? You shouldn't be doing it. You should be out in front of iAwesome, not underneath her, like checking under the hood. That's where I am all the time. Right? If she was a car, I'm underneath it all the time, right? So I'm always like, why is this piece not doing this, right? So I'm always there, right? Where everyone else says you should be driving the car, but right now that's where I'm needed, right? So that's what I do. And your inability to organize the details, right? So you need to be able to sit back and go, okay, how is this going to work? You can't always just think big picture. 30,000 foot view is great, but you also need to get really close and be like, okay, how is this really going to work? Right. And to have the ability to delegate. And that has been hard for me because I've always been just a working on my own kind of a person. So in this project, I've had to work with lots of people. So it's been hard to not have my finger on every single pulse. Right. So to be a good leader, it's about learning also how you can be a better leader and say you don't need to control everything because you trusted yourself to create a capable team. Right. And say, here you go. And I know you got it. Right. So that's it. These are the things that make you a good leader. Wow. I'm tooting my own horn right now and saying how great I am.
They're really valid points. You know, if you're the kind of leader, so certainly we've seen them in corporate and in all kinds of places. You know, if you are a leader who's defined by your title, what happens to you when the title goes?
Right.
Yeah. Where does that leave you?
Exactly. Right. And how do you pick up the pieces when your team doesn't respect you? Right. So it's it's about saying, hey guys, sorry, I messed up here. Let's try this a different way. Right. What do you guys have to think about this? It's really about listening and remembering that, yeah, you're leading the team, but you're learning too. Always learning, always open.
Always. I think that's so true. I think, the day you think you've nothing left to learn, I think life's about to hand you a big lesson. So you need to, you need to always be open to the fact that there's always something new to learn.
Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We've got to 45 minutes, over 45 minutes here. Most of it with me gabbing, gab. Anyways, so thank you so much for joining us, Helen. And thank you so much for being a part of iAwesome and all the awesomeness that you bring to her. And for those of you that are out there, you got to come out and check out iAwesome.com. It's IAUSM.com. And also, if you're faculty, if you're interested in being a teacher, we have a discovery call every Friday. Go check our events. You can go register for one. Our event calendar is available on the homepage. So thanks guys. Have a great day. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.